New tonight on Our News at 7, the number of murders in the country in 2022 surpassing the 2021 murder count with 1 month left in the year.
How shall we be able to celebrate Christmas, with that going on?
The grand aunt of a 9-year-old boy killed while riding his bicycle reflects on his sudden death.
The bleachers on Rawson Square are going up, which means the countdown to Junkanoo is going down. I'm Megan Shepard, and I'll have the details tonight on Our News.
And then in Our News at 7:30, survivors of sexual assault take back the night and unite. We'll tell you how you can help. Our News live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kendino Knowles. The country hitting a grim milestone this week as the murder count has surpassed last year's number. In 2021, 119 murders were recorded, but a murder in Grand Bahama overnight has pushed this year's count to 121. It's the second homicide on that island this month in the Frobisher Drive and Hearn Lane area shortly before 11 p.m. GB Press Liaison Officer ASP Stephen Rolls says officers found a man in his late 20s, early 30s with multiple gunshot wounds.
The preliminary report revealed that the victim, he had just arrived at that location, and while having a conversation with other persons in the area, he was approached by a lone gunman who was discharged a firearm in his direction, shooting him about the body. That male was left heading in a western direction, making good his escape.
Officers appealing for the public's help in solving this latest murder and says patrols will be beefed up as the holiday season approaches.
We just want to urge the public to find ways to resolve conflicts, especially the young men of Grand Bahama and the Bahamas at large. Speak to a pastor or even some civic leader or a police officer to get some sort of direction to try to resolve those conflicts.
Family members of a 9-year-old boy who was struck and killed while riding his bicycle Tuesday evening are reflecting on a life cut tragically short. Police say a flatbed truck was towing a trailer along Kwaku Street as the child was riding his bicycle when the two collided. Family members say the victim is Kevin Lowe Jr. His grand-aunt, Gerthaline Edgecombe, says she was home when it happened.
His father was here checking on something for somebody, and he was right in the front of the yard, him and his other little cousins, his other siblings talking, and that's how. And it happened so sudden. It was so sudden. I was home. I was sitting in the car with my daughter-in-law, and I only heard my sister scream. And when I heard her scream, I said, "Oh Lord, don't tell me somebody get hit." And that's when I came with the car, and that's when they say it was KJ that got knocked down. So it was a sad day for us yesterday for the family.
All right, our Megan Shepard has the full story coming up in Our News at 7:30. A man who led police on a high-speed chase with his children in his car has been jailed after pleading guilty to possession of a prohibited weapon. 26-year-old Raheem Walks crashed his Nissan Note into a sport utility vehicle while running from police officers who attempted to stop him at Bahama Avenue on November 27. After the collision, Walks ran from the vehicle. He was caught and brought back to the car where police say they found an AR-15 assault rifle. Walks pleaded guilty to possession of a prohibited weapon at his magistrate's court arraignment, where he was sentenced to 3 years in prison and fined $10,000. Failure to pay the fine, and Walks will spend an additional year behind bars. Defense attorney Tony Scriven telling the court that Walks' children, ages 3 and 8, were traumatized by the incident. And 3 cruise ship visitors are in police custody in Eleuthera after being found with drugs during 2 separate incidents. A 23-year-old man of Orlando, Florida, was arrested around 2 p.m. on Tuesday for suspected marijuana on board a cruise ship docked at Princess Key. An hour and a half later, police say a 24-year-old man from Winter Haven, Florida, along with a 33-year-old man of Lake Wales, Florida, on board the same ship, were arrested after they too were found with suspected marijuana. The drugs have an estimated street value of $235. Well, the Disaster Reconstruction Authority Special Economic Recovery Zones, or SERS Order 2020, 2, which expires tomorrow, will not be extended. The Ministry of Grand Bahama said today that Grand Bahama and Abaco residents who are still recovering and rebuilding from Hurricane Dorian can submit applications for exemptions to the ministry and the Office of the Prime Minister in Marsh Harbor, Abaco for review. The ministry says applications will be approved on a case-by-case basis. Meanwhile, the FNM's Shadow Minister for Finance, Kwesi Thompson, describing government's decision as heartless. SIRS came into effect July 2021 after Hurricane Dorian left behind a trail of destruction on Abaco and Grand Bahama. And speaking of Hurricane Dorian, today marks the end of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. The season runs from June 1st to November 30th. 2 storms, Fiona in September and Nicole in November, had minimal impact on these islands, namely Mayaguana, Abaco, and Grand Bahama. Back in May, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicted there would be 14 to 21 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 6 major hurricanes. NOAA records show there were actually 14 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes, Ian and Fiona. And talking about storms, it's time now for your first look at weather. And meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center with your first look at temperatures. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Junkanoo, and good evening, everybody. You did mention those numbers. We were spared this year. We had 2 storms, like you said, didn't do much in terms of any significant damages to the country. So we're very lucky about that. Outside of studios right now, though, temperatures are very comfortable. Got a lot of clouds out there earlier. We had quite a bit of shower activity. We actually even heard some rumbles of thunder just before this evening sunset. 78 right now, intermittent clouds. Your winds are out of the east at 7 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature at 79. Around the islands tonight, temperature-wise, it's 78 in Freeport, 81 in Alistown, Bimini. Over in Marsh Harbor, Abaco, 77. Great Harbor Key, you guys are 80 at this hour, as well as in Nicholstown. Over in Governor's Harbor, 79. In the central Bahamas, temperatures also in the upper 70s, low 80s here, with 79 in Kemps Bay, as well as Coburn Town, San Salvador. Pick up 78 in Arthurstown, Cat Island, 82 in Georgetown, Deadman's Key, 81. And into the southeast Bahamas, temperatures a little warmer down there, 85 in Duncantown, Ragged Island. We pick up 80 in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island. That Delectable Bay, that's Marklands, 82, 83 in Abrams Bay, 79 in Matthewtown, Inagua. And our good neighbors to the southeast, Turks and Caicos Islands, you are 82 at this hour. Satellite-wise, we did have a weakening frontal boundary, stationary one across the central Bahamas, couple isolated showers, and as I mentioned, we did hear some thunder later this evening. Those thunderstorms have dissipated. The clouds are starting to fall off, but we are watching a frontal boundary that's now pushing into central Florida. Quite a bit of activity with that frontal boundary while it was across North Florida, but it is weakening as it pushes towards the southeast. Should get near sometime tomorrow evening and bring us maybe an isolated shower, but behind that, we are going to see some increasing winds, so it's going to get very windy for the weekend. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. A look at the tropics. Well, it has ended. And your extended forecast is still coming.
Still to come on our news, why the Bahamas National Alliance Trade Union Congress is accusing government of union busting. Bleachers for the Junkanoo parades are up in Rawson Square as the countdown to Bay is on. Plus, why it's more important than ever to get tested and know your HIV status. It's all coming up when our news returns. Local staffers of FTX Digital will remain employed with the now imploded cryptocurrency exchange, at least for now. Joint provisional liquidators for the now bankrupt company confirming in a statement late this afternoon they have not made any redundancies and that employees who remained to the date of the provisional liquidation order and had not resigned or indicated their intention to resign will continue to be retained until further notice. Liquidators say they are now focused on addressing employee issues and concerns and thank them for their understanding and cooperation. While they are still working on gaining full access to FTX Digital's information, they say their efforts have been hampered by their lack of access to the local company's books and records, particularly customer information stored on cloud-based servers. In addition to trying to reestablish access, liquidators have made application in the United States under Chapter 15 of the U.S. Bankruptcy Code. The court appointed liquidators, saying they intend to enter discussions with the debtors in possession under the Chapter 11 proceedings in the U.S. in order to seek to agree a protocol for information sharing. The Bahamas National Alliance Trade Union Congress accusing government of union busting after they say government officials are increasing senior public servants' allowances without union input. Congress President Belinda Wilson says while the Congress isn't standing in the way of employers paying funds to employees, the unions will not be disregarded. Both Wilson and Bahamas Public Service Union President Kimsley Ferguson had a lot more to say on the issue. You can watch the full story. It's coming up in Our News at 7:30. Well, the countdown is on for the return of Junkanoo to Bay. One of the signature indicators, the erection of bleachers in the downtown district. Our Megan Shepard has this update as Junkanoo groups and spectators alike prepare for the comeback.
From Frederick Street to East Street and everything in between, bleachers are being erected for Junkanoo's return. Managing Director of C-Cubed Seating, Crispin Clare, says preparations got off to a bit of a late start.
Boston Square is going to be the main focus for right now. Doing the northern side first.
In addition to safety, he says the main goal is to create as little disruption as possible.
But we don't want to disrupt their business flow in any way. So that's why we try to start as early as possible.
Now, Claire says this slot where the Cabinet Office once stood will also be transformed into additional VIP seating.
That extends what we call prime time. You know, Boston Square has always been the prime time dancing spot for the Junkanoos. So now that's going to be extended straight to East Street.
On Bay Street alone, seating will be provided for some 9,000 spectators. Now, Claire adds that in previous years, Boxing Day has always been a sold-out event, while New Year's Day sales were slightly under. But after a 2-year hiatus, he believes tickets will go rather quickly. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
And we are also counting down to the global observance of World AIDS Day. We've told stories all week about the disease's impact and local successes, and the storytelling continues tonight with knowing your status and how it is key in the fight against HIV. But in order to know your status, you have to get tested, and that's where the National Reference Lab comes in. Our Jamila Mizik reports.
The National Reference Lab is a public health lab focusing on the molecular diagnostics. And when it comes to HIV/AIDS, Lab Director Dr. Indira Martin says they offer rapid HIV testing. She explains how it works.
It's basically just a 15-20 minute test. You can come in once you have an ID into the lab, and we will advise you on how to interpret the results.
She says if the results come back positive, it's not a diagnosis that people like to hear.
The laboratory is kind of like the intake for persons to, first of all, you find out whether or not you have HIV, and from there you are directed into care services. We have drugs that can maintain your quality of life for a normal lifetime. So people are living to be 70, 80, 90 years old with HIV.
And when it comes to confidentiality and the accuracy of the results, Dr. Martin says patients have nothing to worry about.
We have measures in place because of our accreditation status that ensures that, speaking to the safety again, because quality is a part of safety, we want to make sure that we're giving you the best results.
She says if you are sexually active, you should get tested every 6 months, as well as practice safe sex. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
And our Jamila Mizik is attending a World AIDS Candlelight Vigil put on by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. She joins us live in Our News at 7:30 with more on tonight's observance for the lives lost to the disease. When Our News comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as Jamaica may seek reparations from a UK MP for his family's role in slavery. Plus, how you can continue to make a difference as National Volunteer Month is coming to an end. But first, in regional news, Barbados gained internal self-rule and achieved its full independence from Britain on this day in history. Our news continues right after this. This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Jeffries is running for U.S. House Democratic leader for the next 2 years in a bid that would make him the first black person to hold a top party leadership job in the House or Senate. The 52-year-old New Yorker formally announced his candidacy on November 18th, following a decade in the House with no apparent challengers. Democrats in the House of Representatives were poised on Wednesday to pass the leadership baton, marking the end of the Nancy Pelosi era. Jeffries pledged to preside over a caucus that would return power to committee members and give junior lawmakers more say in shaping legislation and being rewarded with high-profile positions.
America is an idea. One person, one vote. Liberty and justice for all. Equal protection under the law. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The preeminence of the rule of law. America is an idea. We can either defend that idea or we can abandon it. God help us all if we choose to abandon it.
A Buckingham Palace household member has apologized and resigned after she repeatedly asked a black British charity boss where she was really from. Ngozi Fulani, founder of charity Sister Space, claims she was questioned by Lady Susan Hussey at the charity event in the palace. Fulani says she was totally stunned. The palace said the comments were unacceptable and deeply regrettable. Further, the palace said, "We take this incident extremely seriously and have investigated immediately to establish the full details." The palace is inviting Fulani to discuss all elements of her experience in person if she wishes. An earthquake with a magnitude of 5.1 rattling Trinidad and Tobago late Tuesday, but there were no reports of injuries or damage. The Seismic Research Center of the University of the West Indies says the quake occurred at 10:21 p.m. at a depth of 10 kilometers and was felt 104 kilometers northwest of the capital, Port of Spain. The SRC said that the earthquake was also felt 103 kilometers northeast of Carapano in Venezuela. The quake is the latest natural disaster to hit the Twin Island Republic that has been battered by heavy rains over the past few days, causing widespread flooding, landslides, and cuts in electricity and water supplies. And Jamaica is considering whether to seek compensation from a wealthy conservative MP for his family's historical role in slavery. Richard Drax's ancestors were pioneers of the sugar and slave trade in the Caribbean about 400 years ago. Jamaica's National Council on Repatriation is also examining the case for pressing Mr. Drax for damages. The MP is also facing demands to pay Barbados for harm caused by slavery and an estate he inherited in the country. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was November 30th. We'll tell you the Bahamas and the Republic of Cuba established diplomatic relations. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, our Jamila Mizik will join us live from a candlelight vigil for the lives lost to HIV and AIDS in the Bahamas. It's all coming up when our news returns. Welcome back to our news. Our spotlight turns now to events that shaped the day that was November 30th. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1974, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the Republic of Cuba established diplomatic relations. Both nations are members of the Association of Caribbean States, Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, and the United Nations. The Bahamas has an embassy in Havana, and Cuba has an embassy in Nassau. In 1966, Barbados gained internal self-rule and achieved its full independence from Britain. And some major world events on this day include the 1874 birth of British statesman, orator, and author Sir Winston Churchill, who was a two-term UK Prime Minister who rallied the British people during World War II and led his country from the brink of defeat to victory. 1936 saw the burning down of the Crystal Palace, a huge glass conservatory designed to house Britain's Great Exhibition of 1851. In 1939, 20 Russian divisions, almost 500,000 men, invaded Finland in the Winter War. Also on this day in 1982, Michael Jackson's Thriller album was released. Here, Michael Jackson's crystal sequin glove, which was used in the Thriller music video, is displayed with other items from Dick Clark's music memorabilia collection in New York City in 2006. Bill Clinton became the first U.S. president to visit Northern Ireland in 1995. Given a hero's welcome by Catholics and Protestants alike, he declared the time has come for the peacemakers to triumph in Northern Ireland. John Sentamu became the first black archbishop in the Church of England, with enthronement as Archbishop of York on this day in 2005. And finally, in 2018, American politician George H.W. Bush, who was the 41st President of the United States, died at the age of 94. Well, National Volunteer Month is coming to an end, but it doesn't mean your awareness of how you can be an asset to your community. Marlena Leonard has more on how you can carry the spirit of service forward.
We've covered a variety of community service opportunities this month, from the British Legion Bahamas branch caring for our nation's veterans to the Bahamas Humane Society, the Great Commission's efforts to feed the hungry, the Salvation Army, and the Bahamas Association for the Physically Disabled. This short list of options is just the tip of the iceberg of possibilities when it comes to how you can serve a purpose outside of yourself. A great example of a woman who lived this dedication to service is one we got to learn more about while researching the Brave 11 earlier this month, our female platoon in World War II. Dorothy Wisdom, then Dorothy Roberts, was one of those 11 women, and she would go on to become a beloved educator and mentor to many. We were able to speak with two of her sons, Dr. Keith and Evan Wisdom, to learn more about her motivations and her legacy. Evan urged people to step beyond speaking about issues and choose helpful action.
So she just didn't verbalize her passion for country and service. She did things. There's a tendency in our generation of persons to want to get. What I would like to say to our country is we need to give.
Dorothy Wisdom led a life of service until the very end. She was still working as a volunteer teacher when she passed, the impact of which deeply moved her sons.
One of the things that really kind of caught us off guard is when she passed, we had all these people, especially younger people, coming up and saying how she'd affected their lives quietly. She didn't come home and boast about it, but she got them to think about what they could do for their community, their society, this Bahamas.
So look around this holiday season and see how you can give the gift of service and how maybe you can carry that spirit of service into 2023. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks, Marlena. And to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. It does it for us in News at 7. Natalia Hall is up now with the latest headlines.
Thanks, Ken. Well, a family in mourning tonight over the loss of their 9-year-old loved one. And later, Jamila Mizik joins us live from tonight's World AIDS Candlelight Vigil.
First on Our News at 7:30, relatives of the 9-year-old boy killed in a tragic bike accident reflect on his life and sudden death.
The National Alliance Trade Union Congress accusing the Davis administration of union busting as the BPSU fights for responsibility allowances for its members and for a completed industrial agreement. I'm Berthany McDermott, and I'll have all the details for you tonight in Our News.
Plus, why taxi drivers say the transport minister is missing in action and what it means for the industry, and how you can support survivors of sexual violence and their allies. Their stories straight ahead. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. A neighborhood bike ride ended in tragedy for a 9-year-old boy tonight. Family members are speaking out and reflecting a life cut tragically short. Megan Shepard reports.
A teddy bear now hangs on Kwaku Street, forever marking the area where the life of a 9-year-old ended after a fatal traffic accident Tuesday evening. Police say a flatbed truck was towing a trailer along Kwaku Street as the child was riding his bicycle when the two collided. Family members told me the victim was Kevin Lowe Jr. His grand aunt, Gerthaline Etchcombe, says she was home when it happened.
And they was right in the front of the yard, him and his other little cousin, his other siblings talking, and you know, that's how, and it happened so sudden. I was sitting in the car with my daughter-in-law, and I only heard my sister scream, and when I heard her scream, I said, oh Lord, don't tell me somebody get hit. And that's when I came with the car, and that's when they say it was KJ that got knocked down.
His family says he was humble and shy, yet friendly and very mannerly.
He doesn't get in no conflict. He's only come around when his father comes with him, because him and his father and his other siblings, his sister, they always ride or they always together.
Compounding the tragedy, they say they are also preparing to bury another family member this weekend.
It's double for us right now, you know. We're going through a lot, and then this is the Christmas season, so how should we be able to celebrate Christmas, you know, with that going on? But I think through the grace of God, we will be able to celebrate him and Christmas.
It really hurts. It hurts that sometimes you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, you don't know how to react, and everybody looking at somebody to to blame, and there's really nobody to blame. It's just so hurtful.
Police are actively investigating. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
So unfortunate. Thanks, Megan. Well, a man accused of hitting a police officer with his car, sending him to hospital, has been charged. 56-year-old Cyril Liston Gator was arrested following the November 29th incident at Arawaki that left PC 4384 Antonio Bethel in hospital. Gator pleaded not guilty to charges of causing grievous harm, assault with a deadly weapon, and resisting arrest when he appeared before Magistrate Shaker Seville. Gator told the court that he was released from prison last August after spending more than 2 decades behind bars. Gator said he was jailed for the 1991 armed robbery of a customs guard at the Nassau International Airport, in which a police escort was shot. Now, despite paying his debt to society, Gator said police continue to harass him. Gator said he works as a straw vendor on Arawaki. Seville granted Gator bail in the amount of $5,000 and set a trial date for April 11, 2023. Well, police have arrested a man and teen after finding them with $1,000 worth of suspected marijuana. Southwestern Division SWAT officers arrested the 22 and 19-year-olds just before midday on Monday after officers executed a search warrant at a Flamingo Gardens home where they found the illegal drugs. Pay increases for senior public servants not sitting well with the Bahamas Public Services Union and the nation's newest umbrella union. They are accusing the government of disregarding the bargaining agent, a move they've labeled as disrespectful. Berthany McDermott reports.
The Bahamas National Alliance Trade Union Congress accusing the government of union busting after they say government is increasing senior public servants' allowances without union input. Congress President Belinda Wilson says while the Congress isn't standing in the way of employers paying funds to employees, the union will not be disregarded.
That's an attempt to undermine the leadership of the BPSU.
The outrage expressed by the Bahamas Public Services Union comes as the union is pushing for responsibility allowance of $3,600 per year for finance and accounting officers, according to the union's counter-proposal. BPSU President Kingsley Ferguson said the government dismissed the suggestion. Meanwhile, this circular went out signed by Permanent Secretary Gina Thompson to all permanent secretaries, heads of departments, and senior public officers dated November 25, 2022. The document reads, Add 1 increment to the base salary for posts within the BPSU bargaining unit with increments values of $600, $700, $800, and $1,000. The document also says increase the responsibility allowance as at Annex 1 and transport allowance from $250 per month to $300 per month. Meanwhile, the union is still pushing for a completed industrial agreement. The document has an allowance increased for around 51 senior government officials, including the Cabinet Secretary, Financial Secretary, Auditor General, Commissioner of Police, and Defense Force Commodore, among others.
The annual increase, it almost exceeds the salaries of persons at minimum wage.
On Tuesday, lead negotiator for the government's labor relations unit, Bernard Evans, said a counter proposal was sent to the BPSU. Today, Ferguson is saying he hasn't received anything. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Thanks, Berthany. And months after expressing concern over an overflow of taxicab plates oversaturating the industry, taxicab union president Wesley Ferguson says the union finds itself in the same state. Ferguson says it seems the transport minister is missing in action.
We are basically in the same position that we was in when we began. Nowhere. The minister is now MIA, missing in action. Can't see her anywhere other than on TV giving out new houses, keys for new houses. So far, the taxi union has gotten no communication from the minister in spite of our numerous attempts to meet with her. Emails, telephone calls went to the office, and there's no meeting.
Now, back in August, Ferguson said there was a 200% increase in taxi plates, adding that many will cry out over the issue. Between June and July, sources say the Department of Transport gave out over 500 taxi plates. Ferguson says the union will not go away, adding taxi drivers are making no money.
We waited an opportune time, and I would bring every taxi driver downtown who got those taxi plates to present them back to Parliament, because they are of no use to them.
Well, the capital saw a mix of rain and sunshine as we marked the last day of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. Our meteorologist, Greg Thompson, joins us live from the Weather Center with a look at our current conditions. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, good evening, Natalia, and good evening, everybody. Well, the hurricane season has ended, well, midnight tonight, and we are not seeing anything out there, but it is kind of cool outside. We had a lot of clouds across the islands. That's courtesy of stationary front that's been parked across the area. Intermittent clouds, 77 degrees right now. East winds at 8 miles per hour. Your field slight temperature is at 80 degrees. As I mentioned, that frontal boundary stationary across the central Bahamas, falling apart. We did have a couple of isolated showers and thunderstorms. We even had a rumble here in the capital earlier this evening, but that will continue to dissipate as the evening goes on, and weak high pressure will build in tonight, but by tomorrow we expect the winds to be picking up, and we are going to be watching another front that's now pushing into central Florida. Should get nearby late tomorrow and bring us a change in some weather, maybe for the weekend. That's your quick check on weather. Stick with us to look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, our Jamila Mizik joins us live from a candlelight vigil in honor of those who lost to the fight against HIV/AIDS, and why a former attorney general is encouraging all women to speak up and out against gender-based violence. Plus, the Bahamas secures a bid to host the return of a major sports event. That's all coming up when our news returns. As the countdown to the global observance of World AIDS Day is winding down, we've been sharing the stories of growth and success we've seen here at home since the start of the AIDS epidemic. Tonight, the Ministry of Health and Wellness holding a World AIDS Day candlelight vigil in commemoration of the lives lost to the deadly and often stigmatized disease. Our Jamila Mizik joins us now from the ministry's courtyard, where that vigil got underway moments ago. Jamila.
Italia, it was a warm, heartfelt evening here at the Ministry of Health's courtyard, where just moments ago a candlelight vigil wrapped up on the eve of World AIDS Day. And I have here with me the president of the Bahamas AIDS Foundation, Camille Lady Barnett, to tell us about the importance of the event.
Yes, thank you so much. The Candlelight Vigil is an evening, it's always the eve before World AIDS Day, which is tomorrow, December the 1st. And the goal is to remember those persons who've already died, sadly have died from HIV and AIDS, from AIDS-related causes, and also to remember those who are living, who are still living with HIV and AIDS. And it's actually a time for the world to unite, because the World AIDS, it's a World AIDS Day theme, it's international, and the world unites in its fight against HIV and AIDS.
And we know that this year's theme is Equalize. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so the theme is Equalize. And the theme is saying to us that there are some inequalities in terms of people having access to things like testing, treatment, and care. And the reality is that persons who are part of a minority group, for whatever reason, often find that it's difficult for them to access certain services and facilities that they have a right to have access to. And if they have access to them, that they're not treated fairly. And so all we're asking is that people, everyone, be treated with dignity and with respect, irregardless of who they are or whether they're HIV positive or whether they're not HIV positive. And if we are able to equalize around the world, then we'll get closer to our goal of ending HIV and AIDS and getting to zero new infections.
All right, and I know that there are a number of events planned for the rest of the week. Tell us about those.
Yes, tomorrow, World AIDS Day, at 1 o'clock, we have our annual church service. It's going to be at Epiphany Anglican Church on Prince Charles. 1 o'clock, it's only 1 hour, so take your lunch hour and come on out and join us. And then on Friday, the 2nd of December, at 6:30 in the evening, we have what we're calling a sunset move. It is a fun run walk, World AIDS Day fun run walk, but with a little bit of twist to it. We also have a happy hour attached to it. So you may not be a walker or runner, don't worry about it. Come on out and hang out. It's Friday evening, you got to get something to eat and you have to get a drink. We've got Wicked Wings and Conch and Cone and Salad Masters and some other food vendors. 700 Wines and Spirits is the spot. It's across from JFK, and the 700 Wines and Spirits will be open till 9 o'clock, and they will also be doing beer tasting. And we have entertainment as well too. We've got 3 fitness instructors who will do some brief sessions, so you don't have to feel too guilty about not walking. You can still do a little exercise, and of course we've got music.
All right, well, there you have it. Tomorrow is World AIDS Day, and they're looking forward to your support. Reporting live from the Ministry of Health's courtyard, I'm Jamila Mizik. Italia, back to you.
All right, thanks, Jamila. Great effort by the organization and the Ministry of Health and Wellness. That's our Jamila Mizik reporting live for us tonight. Well, former Attorney General Allison Maynard Gibson encouraging all members of the public, especially women, to make their voices heard as amendments to the Sexual Offenses Act continue to be a hot-button topic.
I think it is extremely important that we acknowledge, women in particular, we are the bearers of children, participate, as this is a family matter, and it is strong families that build strong communities and a strong world, a peaceful world.
When our news comes back from the break, it's back to the races. The relay races, that is, as the Bahamas secures the bid for the comeback of a major event.
Plus, coming up in sports for this evening, we'll give you the latest as the Caribbean Cup baseball tournament gets ready to start this weekend. We'll also give you details as the New Providence Volleyball Association with their latest scoreboard. That's all ahead in sports.
And later, sexual assault survivors are taking back the night. We'll tell you how when our news returns.
This is our news. Welcome back. The Bahamas has won the bid to host the World Athletic World Relays in 2024. Formerly known as the IAAF World Relays, the country hosted the event in 2014, 2015, and 2017. The announcement was made via Zoom at the 229th World Athletics Council by World Athletics President Lord Sebastian Coe in Rome, Italy. Now, back in April, Prime Minister Philip Davis said he would make a plea to make the Bahamas the permanent host for the event. There's no word on whether that will be done, but the event was held in 2021 in Poland. Now, for more on this story, tune into Our Sports tomorrow with our Marcellus Hall. The Bahamas gearing up to debut the new Andre Rogers Baseball Stadium as the Caribbean Cup draws closer. Meanwhile, the latest scores from the New Providence Volleyball Association. Here's Marcellus Hall with a look at sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to Our Sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. It's been a while, but wait is finally over. This coming weekend will be the grand opening of the new Andre Rogers Baseball Diamond. It'll feature the Caribbean Baseball Cup, which will have Team Bahamas, amongst others, all participating on the field, looking to see who will be the champion in this fourth installment of that event. For more, let's take a look at what's ahead. Well, this Sunday will be the start of the fourth edition of the Caribbean Baseball Cup, this time being held for the very first time in the Bahamas at the new Andre Rogers Baseball Diamond. There will be a number of teams, including the Bahamas, participating in this year's event, including U.S. Virgin Islands, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Curacao. Team Bahamas will see their first action on Sunday when they go up against a team from the U.S. Virgin Islands. That game comes your way at 7:30 on opening night. Bahamas will play throughout the course of the weekend, again at noon on the 5th when they take on Curacao. They'll follow that up on a game with a game on Wednesday when they take on the squad from Cuba, and finally wrapping up league play when they play against the squad from Puerto Rico. That game comes your way on Thursday, December 8th. New Providence Volleyball Association action in from last night. 2 games on the agenda. Taking a look at the ladies' score, Lady Panthers, they beat the UB Mingos in straight sets, 25-18, 25-15, and 25-17. Meanwhile, on the men's side, the defenders also in straight sets, they took down the Law Enforcers again, 25-19, 25-22, and 25-12. And there it is, your check on sports for you on this Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, how sexual assault survivors are taking back the night and how you can help support them. And get ready to kiss November goodbye and welcome in December. Greg is back right after this break with your extended weather forecast. Welcome back to our news. Here's now your look at what to watch. Our TV is back this season with an all-new slate of Christmas-themed Hallmark movies and classic holiday films beginning December 1st. The lineup includes 24 movies from Hallmark and 6 classics, including A Christmas Story, Babes in Toyland, Miracle on 34th Street, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Be sure and check your programming guide for more right here on our TV. Well, partly sunny skies as we head into December. Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended forecast. Good evening again, Greg.
Yeah. Thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody. Of course, the hurricane season has officially ended. 14 named storms. 8 of those were hurricanes and 2 major, and our normals around 14, 7, and 2. Right now, we're watching a frontal boundary that's pushing across central Florida. We expect that frontal boundary to get near sometime by tomorrow into tomorrow evening. And that could lend us a couple isolated showers, but behind that, it's going to be very windy as a strong high pressure system builds across us. So boating and beaching for the weekend, not looking good. We won't get much in terms of any significant coolness behind this, but the winds will make it feel a lot comfortable. Forecast map showing that weakening frontal boundary across the central Bahamas, that's going to be washing out. And we got that frontal boundary that's going to be dropping into our area by tomorrow, as I mentioned. A couple isolated showers, as they said, with that, maybe even a thunderstorm. But the beaching conditions will be very, very rough. report tomorrow. All areas, caution flag in place, rip current risk, northeast to east, 15 to 20 knots. Those winds will gust much higher. Seas running 4 to 7 feet over the ocean. Your low tide is at 7:42 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. And in your extended forecast, couple isolated showers with that front, but once that front goes through, it's going to be very nice in terms of the skies, but the winds going to keep temperatures rather comfortable. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Talia.
All right, Greg, thanks so much. Well, survivors of sexual violence are holding a very special meeting to take back the night. Organizers say they are hoping the event will help grow support, healing, and community among survivors. Marlena Leonard has the story.
Cindy Gaudette is a rape crisis advocate and a certified child sexual abuse prevention advocate. This Friday at UB's Harry Seymour Library, Gaudette's Silent No More, in collaboration with the American Corner, the Empowerment Group, and Rise Bahamas, will hold an evening of support for survivors of sexual assault and their allies, called Take Back the Night.
Take Back the Night is an event where survivors of sexual violence come together to create a safe space for each other, to share their truths, their experiences, and to give each other as much love and care and support.
Mental health professionals will also be present.
And it's also a time to let survivors know that they're not alone, which is important. On one hand, it's unfortunate because that means that other people have experienced your trauma and can relate to that. So that's the downside. But the good side is that you have people who can hear you without even speaking a word.
Although the event's goal is to bring survivors together, Gaudette does reassure that privacy and safety will be prioritized.
It's open to specific people, to survivors and those closely connected.
Take Back the Night isn't limited to survivors here in New Providence. So if you're a survivor on a family island who wants to participate, please message Cindy L. Gaudette directly on Facebook for more information on how you can take part. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena, and thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.